Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at every single balance change coming in the update in August 2021, and also I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on what the best brawlers are going to be when this update drops. Let's get right into it. Okay, so starting off with the buffs, then starting off with Penny. So Penny's getting a tiny HP buff from 4,480 to 4,760 at max level. So for me, this is just going to be a tiny change, not going to affect too much. For me, Penny still has bad damage, bad reload speed, and pretty much bad HP. The only good thing about Penny is that super, so unless the super charge rate gets buffed or the reload speed gets buffed, for me, Penny is still not going to be that good, but maybe we're going to see Penny on a few more maps now. Okay, so next up we have another HP buff, this time for Daryl. Daryl is getting a 420 HP buff. You love to see it, from 7,000 HP to 7,420 at max level. So for me, this is going to be, it's a decent HP buff. It's not insane. It's pretty much similar to Penny in terms of like percentages of the buff, and this is already going to bring Daryl up where those other tanks were kind of buffed, because obviously a lot of them got new traits allowing them to charge their super, which Daryl obviously can already do, but yeah, I definitely feel like it's going to be a little bit of a buff, and it's definitely going to help out Daryl for sure. Okay, so next up we have another buff, this time to Edgar. Edgar's lifesteal star power is getting buffed from 25% heal to 35%. Now exactly what this means is every single punch, so you have 2 punches in like per shot of Edgar, so 6 if you're unloading all of your ammo. So this is going from 236 per punch to 330, which means per ammo you're healing 660 HP now, which is going to make Edgar so good, because if you think about it, you're unloading 3 ammo, you're technically getting back around 2,000 HP now, which is going to make Edgar a lot more meta, particularly against more kind of a range of brawlers, because right now Edgar's very good against like Rico, it's good against throwers, anything with low damage like Piper. But yeah, I definitely think Edgar's going to be a lot more meta now. Can see this change being very good for Edgar. Now next up we have some really big changes, some big nerfs coming to Jean. Rip spend, by the way. So the first one is going to be just a damage nerf from 1,512 damage to 1,344 damage at max level. So this is a really considerable nerf. It's over 150 damage, and obviously a couple balance changes ago Jean used to do 1.4k, so it's going to be even worse than Jean was back then. This is a really big nerf. That's not the only change we're seeing to Jean. We're also seeing some gadget reworking here. So the lamp blowout gadget is now only going to heal you when you actually knock someone back. If you just use it normally without knocking anyone back, you ain't going to heal anything. It's going to be a waste of a gadget. Also, we have the homing missile gadget of Jean being buffed from 800 damage at max range to 1,000. This isn't going to change too much, because I still believe that this will not be the better gadget. Now next up we have some huge buffs coming to Squeak, which I think is going to make Squeak very meta. So the first one, increased projectile speed by 25%. It's going to make it a lot easier to hit your shots. Next up, when you chuck that super, it's going to explode straight away with no delay, which means it's a lot easier to hit. And also now you can no longer stack your normal shots. So if you have hit someone with 2 blobs, basically now the first one is going to explode. So if you hit someone once and then you chuck another one on them, that first one will explode, meaning you're about to deal that damage a lot quicker, and Squeak's going to be better against more aggressive brawlers now. Okay, so next up we have a damage buff for Bo. So this one is going to be his main attack being buffed from 784 to 840 per shot. A little reminder that you get 3 shots essentially per ammo. So this is actually a very big damage buff for Bo. I think we're going to see more Bo in some gem grab maps, particularly in Double Swoosh and Ice 4, where we have seen a lot of Bo in the past. But yeah, excited to see if we see more Bo in the meta for sure. Okay, next up we have 2 buffs for Poco then. So the first one is a Screeching Solo star power buff from 800 damage obviously per enemy hit to 1,000 damage, which is obviously a 200 damage buff. I feel like we're going to see more Screeching on maybe some close range maps with more walls, where you can get value at that Screeching Solo. The second buff is actually a buff to Protective Tunes. This one is going to be a 1 second immunity buff, essentially from 1 second to 2 seconds, making it a little easier to get value from that gadget. But personally, I still think the other gadget will be better. Okay, so next up we have a buff for Mortis. So I actually suggested something similar to this in a recent balance change video, because Mortis was kind of disproportionately affected by the ammo changes, because his reload speed is really slow, but also has to charge that Cold Snake as well. So now essentially Mortis's Cold Snake star power was reworked, reworked, where it's actually going to charge an extra 0.5 seconds faster than before. So this is definitely going to help Mortis become more meta. You get Cord Snake a little bit quicker, and therefore it's going to be a bit better to push on Mortis now. Okay, next up we have a rework for clay pigeons, and I can tell you straight away, it's not a rework, it's a massive buff for clay pigeons. What are Supercell thinking? Buffing the most OP thing in the game. Nah, I'm only joking. But clay pigeons is actually super OP. So essentially right now what you're gonna do is you can pop that gadget. Essentially you can actually, like, every ammo you shoot off now has that kind of clay pigeons effect, which is really cool because it means you can get a lot of damage at long range very, very quickly. So in 5 seconds, by the way, you can actually get 4 shots off and it doesn't affect your super. So you can get 4 shots off basically clay pigeon style now, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, so jumping into the nerfs now. So starting off with El Primo, it's now going to take 16 hits to get your super. Previously it was 9, by the way. And if you're wondering, you essentially have 4 punches per ammo, so that's now going to take 4 full ammo of shots to get your super, whereas previously it was something like 2 and 1 extra punch. So honestly, it's a huge change, pretty much going from like 2 ammo to get your super to now 4 ammo. This is going to be a huge nerf to Primo. Okay, next up we have Bell's positive feedback star power being nerfed from a 25% shield to now a 20% shield. Honestly, you pretty much never get value out of this star power anyway. You occasionally get some value, but this is pretty much going to change absolutely nothing about Bell. Okay, next up, the one you've all been asking for, we have a Stu nerf, both to a gadget actually and a star power. So first of all, the breakthrough gadget is getting nerfed. So essentially you can only use this gadget when you get super, so you can't just use this gadget whenever now. You have to wait to get your super, then pop your gadget, and your next super is going to break through the wall. That's not the only nerf this gadget is getting, but it's also this gadget is getting nerfed by essentially reducing the amount of damage you do per projectile from 500 damage to 200 damage, which pretty much means when you break through a wall now with this gadget, you're not going to be able to get a kill. It's going to do a decent amount of damage, sometimes up to like 2000 damage, but it's not ever just going to kill the enemy just from this gadget. So yeah, this is definitely a decent nerf. Also, we have the Gasso heal star power of Stu being nerfed from 500 healing down to 400 healing. A little bit of a nerf, but honestly not too much nerf on this star power. We also have a tiny nerf to Nanny, where now the return to sender gadget has a duration of 5 seconds instead of basically infinity. So you're now going to need to choose your situations a little bit better when to pop this gadget. You're not just about to pop it and then hold it for the whole game. You're gonna have to wait for someone like a Piper to shoot you and then pop it. But yeah, a little bit of a nerf, but not too bad. Okay, so next up we have Sandy's Sweet Dreams new gadget, obviously getting nerfed from essentially sending your enemies to sleep for 1.5 seconds to now 1 second. Personally, this isn't going to make a huge change. You can still use it to stun people and score in Brawl. You're just going to have to time it a little bit better. Also, you're still getting that stun effect to cancel supers and stuff like that, but it's definitely a decent nerf, but definitely it's still going to be the better gadget for sure. Okay, so next up we now have a little bit of a nerf to Rico's new bouncy castle gadget. So instead of healing you 300, it's actually going to heal you 250 per wall you hit. Obviously, this is a decent nerf, but in my opinion, it's not going to change much, because if you're bouncing against one wall, it's going to be a little less healing. But honestly, if you're bouncing against more than one wall, like 2 or more walls, you get to max anyway, even with this new nerf. So in my opinion, it's not a huge nerf. Okay, so that's it for all the buffs and nerfs, but we do have a huge change coming to Heist. The Heist safe is getting 25% more HP. So it used to be 45,000 HP. It's now going to be 56,000 HP. This is basically going to encourage people to hold control more. It's going to make Heist more of a control game mode instead of kind of a base race. It incentivizes people to, instead of shoot the safe, shoot the enemy and therefore hold control. This is going to change Heist quite a bit. Okay, so 5 brawlers I think you should really watch out for in this new update is going to be Squeak. I think Squeak had so many buffs that I really think Squeak could be a top 10 brawler now. I also think Edgar could be amazing with that new star power buff. It's so much healing. Also, I think Pam's going going to be extremely good because Pam didn't get any nerfs and Pam was already really good. With a lot of those top brawlers being nerfed, we're going to see a lot more Pam. I also think Rico is still going to be extremely strong. That gadget nerf wasn't really too much. You can still heal up to max pretty much every time if you get those bounces correct. And I also think the Bell is going to be extremely good still, just because that nerf was pretty much nothing. I think Stu will be good, but I don't think Stu will be a top 5 brawler now. That's going to be it for the video. Remember, 65% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you're picking anything up in the new update, make sure you're using code TOM, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.